Hey everyone, it's Laura here and we're going to get straight into our Take Charge Thursday. So we're going to learn how to create these really fun cards. What I love about them is we can dive into our cardstock scraps and we can just create a bunch of amazing cards. But not only that, let's pull out all those stamp sets that have got all the little tiny icons on them and let's get them being used, okay? So let me quickly show you what we're going to do and then you can get stuck into making your own. So but basically, if you look for stamp sets that have got really small icons, and some of them, this one was a Hostess Rewards one, this was Punny Animals, this was a Jolly Christmas, really little ones, Punny Pals, I think nearly every one of my customers bought this when this one came out. This one's Animal Greetings, this was a little special one with all the gnomes, and this was also a special one from a last year I think it was, with all these cute little pigs. So it's really a great concept to use up small little ones, and the one that I'm going to use in this sample is called Little Buddies. Okay, so I haven't done this one yet, so we're going to use Little Buddies. So basically all you need to do is you need to have a piece of cardstock that's cut at 5 1/4 inches by 4 inches, and then you're going to need 9 squares at 1 by 1. Okay, for the background, I would just recommend, if you've got any kind of paint splatter type of looking stamp set, just to add that on just to the background. And I'm using the exact same color ink as the cardstock. So this is Sage cardstock and I'm using Sage ink. And it just gives it a little bit of decorativeness, just to look a little bit nice rather than just plain cardstock, okay? So just a couple of little spots of ink on the background just to jazz it up a bit, and then I will stick that onto my card front. So then we have these 9 squares, and the 9 of these are going to create a square pattern on the front of the card. So being 9 squares, we're going to get a lovely square. With the 9th one down here, we're actually not going to stamp on that one. That one's going to be left blank, because then we're going to add some gold or silver embellishing twine just to give it a little bit of differentiation, and it's not just 9 stamped squares, okay? So we're not going to actually stamp on that one. So we're going to stamp on these 8 squares just using a black ink, and I would recommend that you use a black ink that will take the an alcohol marker. So you might need to use either Memento if you've got Memento, or you can use the Intense Black from Close to My Heart, or whatever ink you have on hand that you know you can colour in with a black marker afterwards. So basically all you need to do is just load up all the stamps, or one at a time. I'm very blessed that I can do all of them loaded up at once because I do have enough blocks. But of course, if you're making this at home, you just load on a stamp and stamp it onto the square, take it off and get your next one. So we've got here my 8 little pals to stamp onto the squares in the black. And then what you'll need is you'll need a marker that is going to contrast nicely with the coloured background that you have chosen. So I have chosen for mine to go with Alpine Green, and I'm going to use the mid strength of that particular marker on these particular squares. Right, so now I've got my 8 squares stamped, so you can see this is a really fast project, really great way to use up your coloured cardstock. Then you're going to take your marker, and basically I've called it reverse colouring in because instead of colouring on the inside of the image, we're actually going to do the opposite, and we're going to colour on the outside of the image, giving the outside a much darker colour than what the original cardstock is. So this is why I've chosen the Alpine Green, so it contrasts really nicely with the Sage Green, and then it makes the background of the image darker. So it's very cool, very simple. I probably think it's easier than actually colouring in because you don't have to look for a bunch of different colours. You are just sticking to one colour for this whole project. Nice long strokes. And then I would just recommend that you just give the outside edge a lick of colour as well, just to make it really, give it really good depth, and then it will contrast perfectly with the background, okay? So that's all you need to do. You just need to go through and colour the 8 squares that we've stamped, because remember that 9th one is going to get the embellishing twine on it. and then they're going to be added to your card. So I'll just get through this second one. So nice long strokes is the best way to put the colour on. And then once all the colour is on, then I would just recommend that you go around the edge of the square and continue with that same colour just to give it really nice depth. Once we've done that, you're going to take that background that we had, have it attached to the card, and we're going to stick these squares to the card. So as soon as I finish this one, I'm going to actually bring in one that I've already pre-prepared with all the colouring in, because you certainly don't need to see me colour in 8 squares, especially when we're not using a bunch of colours or any special colouring in technique. We're simply just colouring in that background so that it's darker than the original cardstock. Okay, so that is it. That's what we need for the colouring in. So here we go, one already pre-coloured in, and as you can see, this last one here is not coloured in. So all you need to do is just work out the spacing, because this square is going to fit near the top of the card. We're not centralizing it, we're having it looks great if it's up the top. And I would just adhere these with some 3D foam tape. So I'm actually using the 1mm height, and you don't need a lot. It's just a little square. It's not going to have any bow in it. Just 2 pieces is all you need. And so then I stick that first one on, having the same width from the edge to the square and the same width from the top to the square. And that's where I'm going to place my first one. I'm just going to stick my second one in the center, roughly where it's the right spacing, and I'm actually going to stick my third one down first. So 2 pieces of tape. Again, all I need. And I'm going to put this second one on and look for that equal spacing that I did on that original first one. Okay, and then I'm going to stick that middle one in next. Just find that I get my spacing better if I do it that way. Rather than going 1, 2, 3, I'd rather go 1, 3, 2. Then I'm just going to line that one up in the center of the first 2 stuck down. Okay, then I go to this next one. I did pre-tape these to speed up the process for you guys. And now I'm just looking for equal spacing between these 2 as to what I've got between these 2 here. And I'm going to go with the next one down again. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's slightly not the same spacing, close enough's good enough. Our eyes don't go and look for all the individual spacing. Our eyes just look as an overview of the overall artwork. Okay, that's what's pleasing to us, the overall artwork. Get this one here in the center. So apart from the colouring in, which will take a tiny bit of time, not too much, the whole process, as you can see, is a really fast project, but it's so fun to use up all of our scraps. Okay, so now we're down to this piece here. So this is how much tape I put on the back. I actually do want it all taped all the way around. Then I'm going to get some embellishing twine. I want a fairly long piece. It's up to you. You can cut it off or you can leave it on onto the roll. I'm going to actually leave it on, but I am going to get it nicely straightened out by running my scissors over that twine to straighten it out, so it's got rid of all the kinks. Remove my backing of my double-sided adhesive, and I'm simply just going to wrap this around and around numerous times, different directions, just to get some, you know, really interesting patterns across this square. Okay, so as you can see, I'm just literally wrapping it around over the top of that foam tape. I am sort of pushing into it as well until I've wrapped it enough times in enough directions just to get that really interesting square filled with the twine. And then I'm going to place that in that bottom right corner and give it a really firm press, because you really need to find the little bits of foam tape that don't have the twine wrapping over it to make sure it adheres really well. Okay, then all you need to do is just add a sentiment onto the bottom of this here. So if you want to make it a thank you or a happy birthday, if it's a Christmas Okay, so just find a really small sentiment, nothing too big. You don't want it to overpower the card. So all those birthday, this one here, may your Christmas be filled with peace. That's all you need to do to finish off the card, is just add that sentiment. I'm pretty sure I have one loaded. Let me just grab it. I do. I've got the happy birthday one already loaded. So I'm just going to ink that up and just make sure that I have it straight. Press it on down. Ta-da! And that there finishes off the card. That's how easy this week's Take Charge Thursday is. So hopefully you jump into your craft room, pull out some coloured cardstock, grab a coloured marker that coordinates with it, find some little tiny stamp set icons, and have fun just creating some really cute cards. Thanks guys, bye!